A grocery store worker from Puerto Rico just did something no one has done in 60 years of Super Bowl history. He performed the entire halftime show in Spanish, in front of 100 million people. No English, not even one word. Critics called it un-American. He told them, "You have 4 months to learn." His name is Bad Bunny, and on February 8th, 2026, he didn't just perform at Super Bowl 60. He rewrote the rules of the biggest stage in America. But what happened in the last 30 seconds of that performance left the entire stadium in tears. This is how it happened. So the story begins in a small town called Vega Baja in Puerto Rico. A kid named Benito, working at a supermarket, bagging groceries for minimum wage. But every night after his shift, he'd upload songs to SoundCloud, all in Spanish. No label, no connections, no English. Everyone said, "You need English to go global." He didn't care. He kept making music his way. Latin trap, reggaeton, pure Puerto Rican soul. That one decision to stay authentic, it changed everything. But the real breakthrough? That was still coming. Then in 2018, everything changed with just one song. I Like It, featuring Cardi B and J Balvin, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And here's what made it special. The song was full of Spanish lyrics and Latin trap beats. Nothing was watered down. Nothing was changed to fit American radio. It stayed authentic, and people loved it even more because of that. Then came the biggest shock. A Grammy nomination for Record of the Year. That's one of the top 4 categories in all of music. For the first time, the industry had to admit something uncomfortable. Spanish language music wasn't niche anymore. It was competing at the highest level. But a Grammy nomination was just the start, because Bad Bunny wasn't here for one hit. He was coming for the entire throne. By 2020, Bad Bunny wasn't just popular. He was #1 on the entire planet. His album YHLQMDLG, meaning I Do Whatever I Want, made history. He became the first non-English artist ever to top Spotify's most streamed list. And he didn't stop there, and he did it again in 2021 and 2022. 3 straight years, all in Spanish. Beating Drake, Taylor Swift, everyone. The Guardian called him the world's biggest pop star. Not biggest Latin star, biggest star, period. But then in 2023, Taylor Swift took his spot. And The Weeknd pushed him to 3rd in 2024. So the question became, could Bad Bunny come back? But then something happened. Bad Bunny lost his crown. In 2023, Taylor Swift took the #1 spot on Spotify. In 2024, The Weeknd pushed him down to 3rd. People started asking, is Bad Bunny finished? He didn't panic. He didn't add English songs. He didn't change anything. He just kept making music, his way, in his language. And in 2025, he came back with 19.8 billion streams, more than anyone on the planet. His album Debí Tirar Más Fotos made Grammy history. First Spanish album nominated in 3 Big 4 categories. He didn't just reclaim his throne, he made it bigger than before. But the biggest invitation of his life was just days away. Then on September 28th, 2025, during Sunday Night Football, the news dropped. Bad Bunny would headline the Super Bowl 60 halftime show, the first male solo Latin artist ever in 60 years of Super Bowl history. Not a shared stage like Shakira and J-Lo in 2020. This time, one man, one spotlight. And the NFL didn't pick him for diversity points. They picked him because he was simply the biggest artist on the planet. That's the difference. He wasn't invited to participate. He was chosen to lead. But when he announced he'd perform entirely in Spanish, not everyone was celebrating. The backlash came fast. Right-wing critics went online calling a Spanish Super Bowl performance un-American. They said the biggest American event should stay in English. But Bad Bunny didn't apologize. He didn't change his set list. He walked onto the SNL stage on October 4th, 2025, and spoke directly to the camera. It's for all of us that love our culture and our history in this country. Then he smiled and said, "You have 4 months to learn." That one line became a movement, shared by millions of Latinos who finally felt heard. But the real answer to those critics? It was coming on February 8th. February 8th, 2026. Halftime, score 9-0. No touchdowns yet. But the real history was about to start. Bad Bunny walked onto the stage and opened with Titi Me Preguntó. Every word in Spanish. No translation. No apology. And then, the entire stadium changed. Levi's Stadium didn't look like California anymore. It looked like Puerto Rico. Colorful market stalls, food carts, dancers everywhere, flags flying. Over 100 million viewers weren't watching a concert. They were visiting a Puerto Rican town. This wasn't a watered-down version of Latino culture made for American comfort. This was the real thing. Loud, proud, and unapologetic. But the surprises? They were just getting started. The hits kept coming. Yo Perreo Sola, Voy a Levarte Papiar, tributes to Daddy Yankee and Don Omar. But then, something nobody expected happened on stage. A wedding ceremony started, right there on the field. And out of nowhere, Lady Gaga appeared. She performed a Latin remix of Die With a Smile, while Bad Bunny officiated the wedding. Think about that. One of the biggest pop stars in the world came into his cultural space. She didn't ask him to conform. She adapted to his vision. Then Ricky Martin walked out, and the crowd went crazy. The man who opened the door for Latin artists in the 90s was now standing next to the man who kicked it wide open. But the most powerful moment of the night, it was still coming. Then came the moment that changed everything. Bad Bunny climbed on top of a car and raised the Puerto Rican flag. He spiked a football in the end zone, the symbolic touchdown he promised months ago. Then musicians marched across the field, carrying flags from countries around the world, and Bad Bunny grabbed the mic and shouted, "God bless America." The screen behind him lit up. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. That was his answer to every critic, every doubter, every person who called him un-American. The Seahawks won Super Bowl 60, 29-13 over the Patriots. But nobody remembers the score. They remember the halftime show. It became the most talked about moment of the entire night. First ever fully Spanish Super Bowl performance. First male solo Latin headliner. First use of Puerto Rican Sign Language. And here's the biggest truth. The NFL didn't book him for diversity. They booked him because he was the biggest artist alive. That's not representation. That's dominance. And that's when it hit everyone watching. This wasn't just a halftime show. It was the end of a decades-long fight. A fight for Spanish to be heard on American stages. A fight for Latino culture to be celebrated, not hidden. A fight that started long before Bad Bunny, and he just scored the final touchdown. A grocery store kid from Puerto Rico stood in front of 100 million people, spoke his language, and the world listened. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. That's not representation, that's proof. Proof that you don't have to change who you are to reach the top. From grocery bagger to Super Bowl legend, Bad Bunny proved one thing. You don't need to change your language to change the world. If this story moved you, subscribe and hit the bell. And tell me, what moment gave you chills? Drop it in the comments.